Mr. Jeffries, you and I had a exchange the last time I was here that I wanted to follow up with you on, and I want to say at the outset that I very, very clearly understand the essential role that freight railways play in our economy, and the profoundly beneficial role that they play in helping us maintain a transportation system while keeping the environment clean and dealing with climate change. It's undeniable. I do have concerns about safety, though. And in our last exchange, you placed a great emphasis on data, on basing decisions on data, which of course I agree with. And you came today with data about falling accident rates in the freight rail system. And it was interesting to me that you chose a time frame going back to the year 2000, which is quite a long time. Well, we actually have data that came out, I think even today, on 2019 that allows us to look, I think, at a more significant time period given changes in the freight rail industry just the last few years. So let me read you some data. Since 2016, from 2016 to 2019, total fatalities are up from 519 to 617, almost 16% increase. Trespasser deaths up by over 25%. The rate of train accidents per million freight train miles up by around 9% since 2016. Hazmat cars damaged or derailed up by over 20% since 2016. Since you are so focused on data, I wonder if you could offer us an explanation as to why things have gotten so much worse in just the last 3 years.
So first, thank you for that. Let's start with the deaths. You mentioned trespassers, grade crossings. I don't know if you mentioned grade crossings specifically, but that's an area of challenge. Absolutely, 96% of rail fatalities are at grade crossings or trespassers, and that's an area where we continue to focus on driving that number down. And it's certainly a responsibility. It's a shared responsibility with the railroads, with the communities, with individuals involved. And it's something that we need to continue to work on, and absolutely we'll do that. That number is dramatically lower than it was historically, but it's not low enough because it's still above zero. So we have more work to do.
Well, it's not just that these numbers are above zero. Of course, we always want to get down to zero. Right. It's that they've been going up.
Well, I think
really
every year we want to drive them down.
Not just, well, since 2016, virtually every safety-related statistics looks worse and worse. Well, in the freight rail industry, and you were touting this miraculous technology. Locomotives are supercomputers on wheels, identifying all these problems before they arise, and yet things are getting worse. And I
would challenge they're getting worse. I'm not looking at the same data you are, but
I'm happy to share this. This is from the FRA.
When we look at hazmat transportation, we're in the safest era ever. 99.998 of hazmat movements moved from point to destination without any incident whatsoever.
Compared to the
That's
early
not 100%.
20th century, perhaps, but in the last few years,
that's actually current data. But
and look, I'm stressing this because you're up here advocating for certain things. You're advocating that we do nothing on the length of freight trains, that we do nothing on crew requirements for freight trains. You're advocating that we allow increasingly hazardous materials like LNG to move on freight trains. You said something earlier today. It was a really eloquent statement in its way. You said, let's not focus on prescriptive ways to get there. What do you mean by that? Are you suggesting we do nothing?
No, I'm saying let's talk about the goal we want to get to, and let's set benchmarks for getting to that goal, but let's not set one way and one way only for how to get there.
So basically no way. You want us to basically tell you have safer railways, but allow the industry to figure out how we do it.
I think that when you prescribe one and only one way to get to a desired outcome, you miss opportunities. I think we have a shared interest. I mean, this conversation shows we have a shared interest in maximizing safety. And so we can agree on that. Like I said, we may disagree on data interpretation, but I think we can agree on shared goals of safety. So something I'm certainly happy to have more conversations with to see where we can
a couple weeks ago, the CEO of Boeing was sitting right in that chair. And right over there, we had families of people who lost their lives because the airline industry lobbied us for 20 years for less and less regulation, and he had to look them in the eye and apologize. I really hope that you don't find yourself in that position at some point in the future. There has to be a prescriptive way to get there, and we have to work together to find it. Thank you.